Can you please kindly give me some proofs from the Holy Quran or the Hadith that we can't understand the hell and the heaven in the material way?
There are so many verses in the Quran which speak on this subject from different angles. I cannot quote all of them because I think I have repeatedly answered these questions, but because you have asked it anew, I must try to be brief about it, yet give you a general idea of what the hell and heaven are. One thing is certain, that we will not be raised in the same body, in the same form, because it's a spiritual life, and the spiritual life cannot have the same body as a corporal body we have. And that is why the Holy Quran specifically makes it clear, وَنُنْشِئَكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. We have the strength power to do what? To raise you into something of which you have no knowledge. So if it is the same body which is to be raised again, how can the Holy Quran say into something of which you have no knowledge? Don't you have any knowledge about what you are and how you are? So, نُنْشِئَكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ is a very clear declaration that the life and the shape of human bodies that you know here will have no resemblance to what is into which these humans will be raised again after death. There will be a different sort of, we call it astral body. Even in other English, for instance, there is a concept of such bodies which are not made of matter like we know here on earth. It's a different sort of material of which the soul is made. And that is why in English they say astral body. A body which can pass through thick things and walls and nothing can stop it. So it is a spiritual form, but it will have a form. Now, the hell and the heaven should be understood in relation to that body. That body cannot be burnt out. That is why there is continuous heartburns mentioned with relation to hell. But people still are there, they are talking, they are walking, and the heat is so intense. It's impossible to realize a body surviving in that heat. So the Holy Quran says they will not be permitted to die and they will go on living, yet their life will be worse than death. They would wish to die, but they will not be permitted to die. So that shows that that spiritual body will be burnt in a spiritual hell. It will not be a physical hell. So all the understanding of the fire should be in relation to that. Again, if they are put in the same sort of hellish well as people believe, it's a deep well in which they are thrown all together, or a big hall with fire raging everywhere, then how is it that those people who have committed smaller sins will share the same thing with those who have committed most obnoxious crimes? You know, the filthiest crimes. If they share the same atmosphere, the same ground, everything of the same type, then they should be burned alike. But according to Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in some traditions it is said that some people will have fire only touching their ankles, some higher, some still higher, and they still be there all together, all of them. So that means it's an internal subjective feeling which will burn them, like we suffer sometimes out of repentance for something we fail to do. And there's so many other things which burn the human hearts like hellfire, like jealousies, intense jealousies make people mad. And if you have read Macbeth, the Shakespearean drama, that presents the jealousy in a form that is really terrible. So this jealousy, feeling of envy against somebody to a degree where you want that somebody to be completely destroyed and burnt and, totally annihilated. You may not annihilate him, but you get annihilated yourself. So that burning and suffering is a subjective feeling. There is no heat from outside. You may share the same room. I'm sitting here and he's sitting there and you're sitting there, and fortunately none of us are jealous of anybody. But if a mean, lowly person with jealousies, with hatreds of others was occupying the same space in this room, you can't realize how much he may be suffering at our happiness. So that is why Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in answer to one question regarding the holy verse of the Holy Quran, which says Arzuha ka arz samawati wal ard, Arzuha ka arz samawati wal ard, nikalne verse, describing the heaven or the paradise. The Holy Quran says that its dimensions would be as big as the entire universe. The companions were amazed. One of them inquired from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, "O Prophet of Allah, where the hell would be?" If the paradise and heavens cover the entire space which we know of, which we can imagine, where shall the hell be? Look at the answer. This is an answer which belongs to this century, not to 1400 years ago. The answer was, in the same space. وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. You have no idea how it is. So he was talking of new dimensions, where you occupy apparently the same space, but live in different dimensions, and no one of one dimension can visualize what the other one is of the other dimension, and how he looks like, so what he's suffering from. So their happiness will not be marred, those who are in heaven, by the watching of the suffering of the hellish people. So this is exactly, not exactly, but something like I have said. I may be sitting here, another person will be sitting here, I may be very happy and content, and he may be suffering a lot, intensely. Yet, unless he tells me, I will not know what's happening within his heart. So some people look like all right, but when they speak of the internal experiences of profound agony, intense agony, one is wonderstruck. He looked all right, but how much the poor person is suffering. So the same applies to the description of heaven. There we will be there, but each one will be enjoying heaven in a different way. Of course, Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam will not be alone in a completely separate, insulated compartment. He would be there, and those who loved him here, they would be with him according to his own verdict. Somebody said, "Ya Rasulullah, will I be with you in the heaven? I love you." He said, those who love someone will be with the beloved ones. But their status will be so different. Being there, breathing the same air, whatever the sort of air that is, the enjoyment and the peace and the closeness with Allah, as experienced by Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, will certainly not be even imagined by those who are surrounding him. This happened here on earth exactly like this. We never wondered at that. Why should we wonder at that? In the same mosque, in the same room breathing the same air, the spiritual pleasure of Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam while in the state of namaz, as-salat, his prayer, was unimaginably different from those ordinary worshippers who came and went. So to share the same room does not in any way confine the pleasures to the same standards. The pleasures may be absolutely different, but the atmosphere may be the same. Hazrat Masih Maud has beautifully expressed it in the term of the pleasure we get from eating good things of life. He says the things may be the same, but the reaction to eating them can be drastically different, absolutely different. He says, imagine a cool bunch of grapes, well chilled and beautiful, lovely and delicious, and someone who is extremely thirsty and also is feeling weak. He needs immediate energy, quick energy. If you give him that grape, he will eat it like he is in heaven. No one can imagine how he would be enjoying that grape, that bunch of grapes. Each one which he will suck would bring heavenly pleasure to him. But there is another person in the same room who is sick with vomiting and nausea and suffering extremely from prostration because of dehydration. Now he needs this very much. He is dehydrated because of purging, for instance, and he needs water, he needs sugar for his survival. Well, you offer him that bunch of grape and he would feel like slapping you on the face. Remove it, I can't tolerate even the sight of it. The same thing, the same atmosphere, the same humans, and the same thing is producing hell for one and heaven for the other. So, giving this example, Hazrat Masih Maud said, visualize the nearness of God to those who have never experienced the nearness of God. In fact, they avoided it. When you mentioned God, they turned away. It was a punishment to them if you spoke of God in the same assembly which they share with you. So if you go on talking of God and people are irreligious, they look with you with such hatred. Stupid people, old age, what they're talking about. And those who love God, when they hear him mentioned and somebody speaks of the attributes of God, they feel intense pleasure, which is sublime, which is heavenly pleasure, while the thing is the same. Mention of God with love can create hell for those who hate God or who do not believe in God, and heaven for those who love God. What will happen? God will come closer to us in the sense that our senses will be sharpened by so many factors that we cannot visualize how much. The Holy Quran, addressing men who have committed crimes, reminds them that وَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ وَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. Now you know what you have been doing. Now you know the consequences. You did not see them because you are practically blind. But now your eyesight is sharpened. Now you see the evil consequences of your sinful life which you spent on earth. So this sharpening of senses would bring God closer for the punishment of those who have never known the love of God, for the intense sublime pleasure of those who have been loving God here and enjoying him being mentioned. So when your beloved comes closer, naturally your pleasure is enhanced many, many times. So that is also a sort of heaven where the milk or the honey or the wine of Jannah will lose meaning in comparison to the love of God and nearness to God. And this Jannah is described in the Holy Quran as the very best. فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. Oh, that soul who remained happy on earth with me, with whom I was happy, now you enter my Jannah. فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي, and enter my servants. Now this is the highest form of Jannah which can be visualized. So there are so many other observations made in the Holy Quran which can build this thing further, but I think for the time being it should be sufficient. Okay? Right. Please. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وسارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة أرضها السماوات والأرض أعدت للمتقين. Hasten towards forgiveness of Allah, your Lord, Rabbikum, forgiveness from your Lord, وَجَنَّةٍ أَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتِ, and towards that paradise whose dimensions cover all the heavens and the earth put together. أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This vast Jannah is created for those who fear God. So this is the verse to which I referred. Please. The verses which I quoted before, I would like to repeat by reading the Quran so that there is no mistake, possible mistake which I might have committed, left uncorrected. The one here, which we just read, لَقَدْ كُنْتَ فِي غَفْلَةٍ مِّنْ هَذَا. He remained in a state of ignorance about the consequences of his sins and things. فَكَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ غِطَاءَكَ فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. We removed or pared off the cover which was causing blindness to your eyes, which had covered your eyes so that you could not see, they became opaque. You know, you tear off a cover and then suddenly the eyes begin to see. So it says, فَبَصُرَكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. Now your sight is very, very, very sharp. That's the verse which I quoted. نَحْنُ قَدَّرْنَا بَيْنَكُمُ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُبَدِّلَ أَمْثَالَكُمْ وَنُنْشِئَكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Surah Al-Waqi'ah, verse 62, 61 and 656. एक ही तो है, I'm sorry.
Just both is mentioned.
I'm sorry. Let me read. That was from my memory. I wanted to see whether I remember rightly. I made one small mistake, now I correct it. نَحْنُ قَدَّرْنَا بَيْنَكُمُ الْمَوْتَ وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُبَدِّلَ أَمْثَالَكُمْ. We have ordained death for you. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقِينَ. And we cannot be frustrated from changing your forms. Amthalakum. No one can frustrate us, can obstruct us to do this. This is the meaning of وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُبَدِّلَ أَمْثَالَكُمْ, so that we may change your forms. وَنُنْشِئَكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, and raise you into a form of which you have no knowledge. Do you have the knowledge of your form? Right? So this will not be the form in which you will be raised. There is one thing which is certain, and it has to be so, because human life is spread over sometimes 100 or more years. Which body will be raised? The body at the time of death? What a punishment that would be for the people of heaven, who will go to heaven with those bodies. Each muscle will be aching, and the whole face will have wrinkles which has to be pressed out, and the sight will be weak, and no sense of taste will be left. Stomach will have given up completely. What sort of heaven that person would enjoy? So if not that, which body? When? The body which he has left behind? He did not die? So people do not apply their minds. It's impossible for the physical resurrection, because people rise and die in different ages. And some are ugly and some are beautiful. Some are born congenitally blind. Some are born with one eye, some with a very thick, large nose. Some with this color, some with that color. If all the bodies are resurrected exactly as the person possessed at the time of death, what a hell that heaven would become. See? It's impossible. So that is why this is the verse. This is fantastic. In no other book you can find a verse like it. This is the proof of the truth of the Holy Quran, that it was authored by God and not by Muhammad Rasulullah. Nahnu qaddarna bainakum al-maut. We have ordained death. And nobody can frustrate us from changing your forms and to raise you into something of which you have no knowledge. Right?
The Muslims, other Muslims believe that they die as well, this body dies, but they get a body like this which really burns.
Which body?
I don't know.
If they are the same people, this is the question I'm raising. Then a man with the ugliest possible face will be raised in the same body, or it will be somebody else's body which will be given to him. And a beautiful person will be raised in the same beauty and, charming attraction and things. So this is not possible. The body will have to be reshaped, reformed according to the deeds of the person. So the person who will be raised will be a good person or bad person. It's not a question of the physical reappearance after death. If I am good, then whatever will be born after death will be good. So whether I am ugly, he will be good looking, because it is goodness which will be raised. Right?